I never imagined my marriage would unravel the way it did. But looking back now, the signs were always there, quiet, subtle fractures that widened with time until they became impossible to ignore. What once felt like a partnership began to erode, not with a dramatic blowout, but through a slow, almost imperceptible drift. Zachary and I had been married for 4 years. On the surface, everything seemed solid. We had a warm, modest home, steady careers, and a life marked by comfort rather than passion. We weren't chasing grand adventures, but we had stability. Or at least, that's what I believed. Underneath that calm exterior, though, something darker had started to stir, something I didn't fully acknowledge until it was too late. It began, as many endings do, with something that didn't feel like a threat at the time. Austin had been in my life for over a decade. We met in college, back when everything felt raw and electric. Late nights spent studying, laughing until our sides hurt, sharing secrets under dim dorm lights. There was even a brief romance between us, one that flickered and faded without consequence. It was a chapter we both closed easily, or so I thought. Since then, Austin had simply become a fixture in my life, a loyal, platonic constant. But for Zachary, Austin was something else entirely. At first, Zachary never said much. He was quiet when I brought up Austin, but I noticed the way his smile tightened when I shared stories about our college days, the way his eyes clouded over whenever Austin's name slipped into a conversation. I thought it was harmless jealousy, the kind that would dissolve with time and trust. After all, I was married to Zachary. I had chosen him. Then came the invitation, a beach trip organized by a group of old college friends, Austin included. It was meant to be a carefree reunion, a nostalgic escape from the routines of adulthood. Sun, sand, and a weekend filled with laughter and familiar faces. I felt a rush of excitement at the idea. It had been so long since I did something spontaneous, something just for me. But when I told Zachary, the reaction was immediate. His face darkened, and his voice dropped into a tone I had never heard before. "You're not going." I laughed, thinking he was joking. He wasn't. He laid it all out. How uncomfortable the idea made him. How he never trusted Austin. How he believed the bond we shared crossed invisible lines I refused to see. I told him it was innocent. I told him he had nothing to worry about. I told him I needed a break, just a few days to breathe, but none of it reached him. He gave me an ultimatum. If I went, he said, I'd be choosing Austin over him, and that would be the end of our marriage. I was stunned and furious. I had always been fiercely independent, and his words felt like a chain tightening around me. I didn't see it as a cry for reassurance, but as a threat. I packed my bags with a silent defiance, kissed him goodbye at the door, and drove off to Myrtle Beach determined to hold on to my freedom. The trip, at first, was exactly what I hoped for. A carefree blur of sandcastles and cocktails, waves and late-night laughter. The old group fell into an easy rhythm, and with Austin, that familiar comfort returned. We joked. We reminisced. There was something effortless in the way we moved around each other, like slipping into a well-worn sweater. But then came the night on the balcony. The others were inside playing cards, music pulsing faintly through the walls. Outside, the ocean breeze tangled in our hair, and the moon spilled silver across the water. Austin and I talked about the past, our college days, that brief, innocent fling, and how different life felt now. He looked at me, and there was something in his eyes that hadn't been there before. Or maybe it had, and I just hadn't let myself see it. Our hands brushed. I didn't move away. It wasn't a kiss. Not quite, but it was close enough to cross a line I had always sworn was safe. I went to bed that night with a racing heart, whispering lies to myself about what it meant. It was the alcohol, the nostalgia, the setting sun. It wasn't real. It couldn't be. The next day, caught in the glow of beachside ease, I made a decision that would tip everything over the edge. I posed for a photo with Austin, his arm draped casually around my waist, our smiles wide and sun-kissed. I was in a bikini. He was shirtless. We looked like a couple. Without much thought, I posted it to Instagram. A breezy caption. A few hashtags. I told myself it was harmless. I didn't think about Zachary. Not once. I didn't consider what would look like to him. Sitting at home, scrolling through his feed and seeing his wife wrapped up in another man's arms. When I got home, the house was silent. His car was in the driveway, but the closet was half empty. Panic flooded me. I called him, and when he answered, his voice was barely above a whisper. Cold, cracked, final. "I'm done, Paisley," he said. "I saw the picture. I told you what it would mean." I tried to explain, to tell him that it wasn't what it looked like, that nothing happened, that I hadn't cheated. But he didn't let me finish. "You chose him," he said. "You humiliated me in front of everyone. You didn't just cross a line. You burned the bridge." He hung up. The days that followed were brutal. Messages poured in from friends, from family. Some were confused. Others were angry. How could you do that to Zach? That photo was so disrespectful. I scrolled through the comments on my post. Strangers had weighed in. Acquaintances took sides. I deleted the photo, but the internet never forgets. I tried to reach Zachary again. When he finally agreed to meet, he looked like a ghost of the man I had married. Exhausted, hollow-eyed, brittle. He told me he was living at his brother's house. He couldn't sleep. He couldn't think. He couldn't look at me without remembering the image of me on that beach. "I trusted you," he said, his voice breaking. "I told you how I felt. You didn't care." I tried to say I was sorry, but the words sounded small, empty. He turned and walked away, and this time I knew he wasn't coming back. Weeks passed, and the silence in our home grew unbearable. I sat with my choices, feeling the full weight of what I had done. For years, I had let Austin linger too close, let his calls interrupt dinner, let his texts go answered while Zachary waited beside me. I told myself it was harmless, that Zachary's jealousy was irrational. But I was wrong. Zachary started therapy, something he'd always resisted. Through mutual friends, I heard it was helping. He was learning what he deserved. Boundaries, respect, loyalty, things I hadn't given him. Eventually, he filed for separation. I didn't contest it. How could I? I had already walked away. Long before the papers were signed, I had chosen my ego over his heart. Austin, and I never became anything more. After the trip, whatever spark we felt fizzled under the weight of reality. That moment on the balcony became awkward silence. Whatever could have been was buried under guilt. Zachary is gone now, and I'm left with the echoes of the life we built, torn apart by my own blind selfishness. I wanted freedom. I wanted fun. But what I sacrificed was something much deeper. Trust, intimacy, the fragile, sacred thread that holds two people together. And no matter how much I want to take it back, I can't. Some mistakes don't come with second chances.